What up? I'm Cassandra Worthy, and you're listening to A Shark's Perspective.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective. I am Kenneth Kinney, but friends call me Shark. I'm a keynote speaker, strategist, a shark diver, host of this show, and your chief shark officer. So how do you handle change? It's tough for a lot of people. In the corporate world, you could be killing it, but next thing you know, organizational shifts happen that might take you in another direction, and sometimes even out the door. The mechanisms you use to cope with change, especially those powered by your emotions, can be difficult, if not even dangerous. But better understanding those emotions can help you lead to recognize new options and opportunities and to becoming a change enthusiast. Cassandra Worthy is the founder and CEO of Change Enthusiasm. She's a former chemical engineer turned global keynote speaker and the author of Change Enthusiasm: How to Harness the Power of Emotion for Leadership and Success. And on this episode, we'll discuss dealing with change both personally and professionally, the emotions that occur, and how to grow through it, the dangers of some coping mechanisms, the 3 steps of change enthusiasm, the value of trust, shampoo formulation and battery innovation, Mark B, chemical engineering and centrifuges, famous shot putters, embracing change for your last meal on earth, and a lot more. So let's tune in to a change enthusiast with, you guessed it, a shark enthusiast on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Cassandra, welcome to A Shark's Perspective. Would you please give us a brief overview of your background and your career to date?
Sure, and thank you so much for having me. Background and career to date. So I'm a chemical engineer by trade. I went to Georgia Tech, got my engineering degree, and then I went on to work in corporate and more traditional roles for about 15 years. And it was all in CPG, consumer packaged goods, and majority in research and development, although I did some work that was a little bit more downstream, so in product supply and manufacturing. But I did a lot of cool stuff doing, shampoo formulation. I worked in a blazing razors business, got to do some cool injection molding. And it was a really awesome career just because I love engineering because it's all about solving problems. And I love solving really big, complex problems. But it was a career that I went through a lot of shift and a lot of change. And a lot of that was in acquisitions, multi-billion-dollar acquisitions. And I've been through a couple of them. And through that, I felt the pain, the emotions, the frustration, the anger, the grief that happens when we're going through that type of change. It feels like it's happening to us. And I personally developed a mindset that helped me grow through those change events, as well as inspire those around me to find learning and growth and evolution through big changes as well. And I just started hearing, folks around me saying, how are you doing this? How are you staying so energetic, invigorated? How are you leading other people through this? As well as my own intuition, just telling me that there was something bigger and better that I could be doing to make the world a better place. And so I started following curiosity on understanding what that could be like. What could it look like if I wasn't working in more traditional roles of corporate America? And I found myself on a stage one day talking about something that I was very passionate about, this mindset that I've now coined Change Enthusiasm. And I've just been off to the races, since then. So I own a training and leadership development firm called Change Enthusiasm Global. And I'm so grateful to travel the world sharing the message of change enthusiasm and training and developing leaders as it relates to being highly invigorated and inspirational leaders when going through change.
Well, let's talk about this great book, Change Enthusiasm, which I got to read beforehand. It's fantastic. How to Harness the Power of Emotion for Leadership and Success. Yeah. You had all this stuff that you went through in your career, but what drove you to write the book? Why did you take this angst that came from what you went through in your career and put it pen to paper?
Yeah. So I'll be honest with you. When I first started following that path of curiosity, when I was still working in corporate, I thought that I would just be an author, that I would just write self-help books. And that's how I would get this, energy and this message out into the world. But, before then, I found speaking and I found the stage. And so I started speaking before working on the book. And it was through the speaking engagements, through teaching change enthusiasm, that I started to get a pull of people wanting more. And honestly, I wrote the book because I wanted to pull change enthusiasm from the conceptual and into the practical, and really arm people with a means of actually practicing this mindset, right? This is about embracing emotion. This is about acknowledging emotion. This is about harnessing the power of that energy to fuel growth, transforming emotion into fuel for growth. And so I wanted to make it very practical and create some exercises and some worksheets really for people to put it into practice. So that's really what inspired me to write the book. I wanted people to become practicing change enthusiasts. And so I had to write the guidebook. I had to write the playbook for people to be able to do that.
Well, your speaker demo reel is great. Your book jacket is great. All your graphics are great. You've got such a wonderful personality, a beautiful smile. But I thought it was really interesting when I looked at the powerful opening to your story in the book, and where you talk about your struggles with alcoholism. It's part of how you were trying to cope with other changes in your business and personal life. And I know a lot of CEOs that talk about issues like this. This is what's keeping them up at night, not market positioning, but the stuff that, the real world stuff that everybody goes through with dealing and coping with especially with change. But you write about it in the book, and it's a struggle that a lot of people are afraid to say out loud. If you don't mind, talk about what alcohol was to you and how that became a coping mechanism.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I always tell people that I am the greatest student of what I teach. And change enthusiasm is about recognizing and acknowledging really difficult emotion like anger, like frustration, like fear, like anxiety. It's about understanding how that flows through you, allowing it to exist, and then understanding how you were then in a moment of opportunity to learn, to grow, and evolve. But it's about being in tune with your emotions and emotional self-awareness. And I will tell you that alcohol meant to me that I did not have to deal with those emotions. It meant that I could keep chasing what I, realized was fleeting joy, fleeting happiness, that happiness that just slips through your fingers once you wake up or come to the next day, having, been chasing it with shots or whatever all through the night. So for me, it was a numbing, and it was a means for me to get away from difficult emotion and not have to face them. And so truly it was through sobriety that I was able to understand the power of these emotions, and that they're not negative, right? They might feel bad. They might weigh you down. They don't feel great, but it's actually can invite you into the greatest changes and transformations that perhaps you've ever experienced in your life. And for me, that was stepping into my sobriety. That was saying yes to my alcoholism, knowing that is a part of me and that it's okay. And now I'm so grateful to recognize that, and that's just, a part of who I am, and that it's healthier for me and everyone else involved if I don't pick up a drink. And it's through that clarity that sobriety has afforded me that I begin really stepping that path of curiosity that I have gotten into the work that I do today, that I'm so grateful to know is my purpose. I am living on purpose every day, sharing this message with the world to as many people as I can. And honestly, it's teaching a lesson that I strive to learn each and every day. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it was just funny because I didn't mean it as an incorrect comment, but your smile is so great. And then you hit people as soon as they jump in, you hit them hard with that story. And there's a great story in there about the letter you wrote to the person you met the day before. And it was a very cathartic letter. And I encourage anybody to go read it. It's a really good story about how you were starting to deal with it. But, when you talk about emotion, that plays such a powerful part of change. A lot of this story of how to deal with it comes with your study of emotions. You speak about embracing those negative emotions and exploring opportunities presented and those conscious choices at a high level. Yeah. How should we go about developing to deal with change, that resilience muscle?
Yes. So for me, and again, this is the core of the work, and this is what I've seen work time after time in my own personal experience. And now the data just keeps getting replicated with individuals and organizations all over the world in so many different industries. But it truly is about emotional self-awareness, and it's about trust, right? And I think another word for trust is about belief, right? Trust is a belief that you've instilled in something or someone. And change enthusiasm is really rooted in a trust or a belief that as you're going through change, as you're going through something that is so difficult, that is so challenging, where you feel like you can't even get up out of bed, where you feel like you can't even open up the laptop to stop working because there's so many difficult emotions, you have to trust that those emotions are existing to serve you, that they're existing for a reason, and it's to welcome you into an opportunity. There's something there for you to learn, somehow for you to grow, whether that be learning about yourself, learning about, your peers, your colleagues, your business, your industry. Somehow you are being welcomed into that opportunity. And the third step of change enthusiasm puts you right in that seat of power, of choice. It's up to you. We can choose how we experience change. We can't always choose what kind of change comes on our path, right? I never chose to be a part of a business that got acquired. I certainly did not choose that, but I did choose how I showed up. I did choose how I experienced that change, how I led through that change, how I took responsibility for the energy that I was bringing into the rooms, how I chose to embrace and acknowledge my own signal emotions, that frustration, that fear, how I chose confident vulnerability to my employees, to my workforce, and leading, with empathy, and again, with my authenticity when going through change. And so for me, it really is about welcoming those emotions, not trying to have all the right, answers, knowing that no one can have all the right answers, and just trusting that those difficult emotions exist to serve us. I think that they're a tap into something divine that we all have a tap to, and it's up to us to listen.
So who did you necessarily target this book? Who was the audience that you were targeting? And I asked this because I know that the way it made me feel, it felt like I was able to first read it as the worker before I became the person running the floor. And I thought that was well done, because a lot of books are often to the future CEO only. Right. So I'm kind of curious, were you targeting the worker in general or the manager up on high, if that even makes sense?
Yes and yes. So I'm targeting individuals who are experiencing, leading through, or going through change. Any individual who is experiencing that change and, has heart and mind. So again, anyone who is, either anticipating a change that's coming, want to be prepared for when a change happens and want to have that resilience muscle on ready, or for that C-suite executive who's leading through change. And, I always say we do a lot of workshops, capability building with leaders, and the work really is individual focused. So many times when you're going through, change management training, leadership training, it's all about, okay, what can I do for the organization? What can I do for the team? What are some tools, some models, and that is a part of it. But there's also a part that is, what can I do for me so that I can show up my best, brightest self, so that I can show up invigorated and ready to inspire, and taking responsibility for my own energetic signature. So it's individually focused to inspire that invigorated leader. And then also there's some other tools in the advanced applications of the last third of the book that's really focused on those leading others through change. And it's about self-development. It's about thinking about how you can nurture yourself. And then so some of those things, those soft skills that are critical when you want to inspire those around you.
So I'm going to dive into one of the stories that I really thought was great. I love the story about Mark B. So you're managing a team, kicking butt results. You have a good relationship with your manager. You're outshining your evil arch nemesis, Mark B. Your manager pings you and wants an oddly timed discussion, and you don't know what the issue might be, but then you find out your boss gets promoted, and you in the organization now has to report to Mark B.
Boom.
Yeah, exactly. Almost all of us have had something similar happen to us. Walk us through how someone should process this in a better way, rather than just punching a wall or Mark B if we saw him.
Or punching Mark B.
Exactly.
Or your manager for getting promoted. How dare you?
Exactly.
So the first thing that I will say, first off, let me just name what the 3 steps of change enthusiasm are. We're kind of dancing around it, but let me be a little bit more explicit. So it's a 3-step mindset, what I call a growth mindset. And the first step is called the signal. And it's about recognizing and acknowledging the difficult emotions of change. And in my work, I've distilled that down to 5, which are frustration, fear, anger, grief, and anxiety. So that's that first step. And it's when you can trust that those emotions are existing to serve you, that you then move into the second step, which is the opportunity. And it's here really where all the work happens. You're recognizing, okay, I'm in an opportunity. I know that I'm going to grow. I know that I'm going to become better. How can I go about doing that? What are my options? What can I do for me, right? How can I learn more about maybe Mark B's tenure, maybe what Mark B's passions are, maybe other people who now report to him, how have they managed? What have they learned about him? What are some tips, some tricks that I can employ? And then also thinking about, where do I want to grow in my career? What are some things that I can do? Maybe this next part is a stepping stone. Where do I want to go, and how can I leverage Mark B to get me there? And then that third and final step is the choice, right? So once you've weighed out these options, explored what's possible for you in that moment, you're choosing something that will ultimately inspire a better result, but really a better feeling, right? A better feeling. And it's not about leaping all the way from anxiety to anticipation, because, I can't even do that. It's not like, emotional manipulation. It's about making those little choices that's going to inspire that next best feeling, not necessarily the absolute best feeling of bliss or joy or anticipation. So yeah, I would say in that particular instance, when you've been, announcement comes, you've got news that just knocks you on your feet, practice that first step, which is allow the emotions to exist. If you're feeling anger, feel the anger. If you're feeling frustration, feel the frustration. Acknowledge it. Don't suppress it. Don't ignore it. Don't act like it's not there. Don't try to gloss over it. Allow it to exist, and take a moment to do that. And then allow that trust to bubble up and say, you know what, if I'm feeling this way, it means that I'm in a moment of opportunity. Something good is about to happen for me. And it's up to me to figure out what that good is. I'm about to learn from Mark B in ways that I never thought that I could. And you'll explore and see what that journey is all about. But yeah, practice that first step and then make your way through the second and the third.
Well, Cassandra, if you ever went back into corporate America and you were being hired by a Mark B, then you have totally blown his chances of ever managing you effectively. He's like women named Karen who walk through the park with their dog. It's a tough go for those people. So,
well, again, I trust I can learn something from Mark B. Mark B's got something to teach me, even if it is what I don't want to be like in a leader. I tell you, some of the worst leaders, managers that I've had, I'm so grateful for, because they taught me behaviors and ways of being that I know I don't want to be a part of my leadership style. And that's something, that's value right there. That's
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, speaking further of trust, we have a mutual friend in David Orsager who talks about trust regularly, and this rings familiar with him. In the book, you talk about the value of trust and how that takes part in dealing with change. Elaborate, if you will, on the importance of its value.
Yeah, for sure. And again, trust for me, if we define it, it's about belief. And then if you drill down belief even further, it's thoughts that we keep thinking, right? Thoughts that we keep thinking. For example, the person in my life that probably carries one of the highest levels of trust is my brother Richard. And I have built that trust through thinking the same thought over and over. And the data has supported that thought. I call him in the middle of the night because I need something. He picks up and he's there. I need a late ride to the airport. I pick up the phone. He's there. So all these data points have continued to instill this thought. If I call on my brother, he's going to be there. If I need him, he's going to be there. And I trust that because I've been thinking that same thought for years, and it's been replicated and nurtured through that data. And so it's so important especially when we're leading through change, that we can evoke, that we can nurture that level of trust in our employees and in our workforce. Because the moment that trust is out the window, then you lose hearts and minds. And though you might see change adoption happen, it will not be sustainable. I firmly believe that you can't have sustained change unless you have the belief that drives that change, that makes that change a reality, sustained. And you've got to have that trust in your organization that you have the right vision, that you have the right mission. What you're calling them to do is going to be right for the organization and for the business.
So let's talk a little youth versus wisdom. If you were giving advice to your younger self, and of course you're only 25 now.
No, I'm 40, almost 41.
Well, where do you take emotion as part of your own story, and and how you deal with it and make it part of a youth versus wisdom and dealing with those emotions as you mature. You even write on the jacket of the book where you talk about writing this to your 27-year-old self and then also to your 34-year-old self. When the market's hot for jobs, you think about it, everybody's like, screw it, I don't need to deal with this, move on and not make change. But a lot of people, look at the Great Resignation.
Right.
A lot of people change jobs, but when it's not, they're forced to deal with change when there aren't a lot of options. And so I wonder how much of that now, and I see that especially with people that are younger who are able to change jobs, good for them. But is that going to change the culture in a way where we're not forced to deal with the change that we need to deal with? Because if they're ignoring some of the great teachings you've got in here, it can hurt them a lot later on down the line.
Yeah, for sure. So let me answer what I thought was going to be your question in the first part, talking about what advice.
What would you tell your younger self?
To my younger self? So I love this question, and I've gotten it a few times, and I always like to turn it on its head because it's honest for me. When I think about little Cassandra, I always would rather want to hear her perspective, and I would rather want to understand if I was living up to what she had dreamed for me. And I would want to hear her thoughts on, have I become something that she would have envisioned or something that would knock her socks off? So I'd be much more interested in hearing from her than trying to give her any level of advice. I'm one who I don't really believe in regret. I think that every experience, including my DUI, including, alcoholism, has been a part of my journey. And it would have brought me here talking to you and this amazing audience if it wasn't for the culmination of all my experiences. So I'm grateful for all of them, no matter how difficult, no matter how dark, no matter how challenging. So that's the response to that. The other one about how do I think about, this evolution of how we think about change and the Great Resignation that's happening. And my perspective is, I think that through the pandemic, I think we as humanity have woken up to understand what is it that we're willing to deal with and what is it that we're not. So I think there have been a lot of changes and a lot of shift in the workplace. That's a fact. But I think there are things that have been unchanged. And that is what people desire in a job, in work, that they're pouring so many hours of their life into. And what do they aspire? What do they need from people around them, from their peers, from their management, as well as the type of work that they do? That it's something that resonates with their core values, something that they can be proud to say that they're doing their work towards. So I think that idea hasn't changed. If anything, that's become more and more to the forefront as people have had time to pause, to reflect, to think about, my God, I have given so many years of my life to this job that I'm not really that jazzed about, and that it really has just drained me. And so now it's like, I'm at a point where I want to start pursuing that thing that really aligns with my values and that lights me up. And so I don't think change is going to go anywhere. I think, if anything, the level of change and the pace of change to remain innovative, to be competitive, has done nothing but accelerate. So the need to be agile and flexible and change ready is still there. But I think what it's become incumbent upon employers is to ensure that they have the culture, that they have the values, the purpose, the why, the mission that's true and honest to their business. And as long as that's the case, hopefully you will attract the workforce where that resonates and they'll be wanting to stay, even though, things are changing very quickly. You got to be fast paced, got to be innovative. Things are going to be difficult, going to be challenging. But you know what? I believe in the mission. I believe in the value, and I love the people that I work with. And though I have difficult days, this is work that I enjoy doing. So yeah, I don't think change is going anywhere. And if change isn't going anywhere, the emotions of change certainly aren't going anywhere.
What's your advice on how we embrace change enthusiasm for lifelong growth so that it goes beyond this one moment we're having to deal with every day versus one that we're able to deal with all the time?
Yeah, two things. Number one, the idea of leaving emotion at the door of business is an antiquated one. I always say that when we leave emotion at the door of business, we are leaving humanity at the door of business. We are naturally emotional beings. As Brene Brown says, we are not cognitive beings. We are emotional beings that think from time to time. And so the fact that we have workforces that are humanity, we employ humanity, we have to be open and acknowledge that emotional energy. And the embrace of change enthusiasm rests in the promise of it, right? When you can acknowledge those emotions, when you can recognize the opportunity that change presents, sitting in your seat of power, in your seat of choice, that's when you can start transforming all that emotional energy into that fuel. That's when you'll see more workforces being excited, getting that level of anticipation. And although there are days when there's frustration, when there's anger, if I'm feeling that, I'm in a moment of opportunity. I'm about to learn something. I'm about to grow somehow. And it's up to me to choose how I do this, how I navigate this. And so for me, when you practice change enthusiasm, it really is about nurturing that resilience muscle, giving you the goods so that you can continue to flex it and strengthen it, and truly becoming change ready, such that when change hits, and it's inevitable that it will, and those emotions start being inspired, you won't run away from them. You won't ignore them. You won't assume that, you know what, I'm feeling frustrated, so it means I need to quit. But rather you'll explore them, understand their meaning, understand what that opportunity is for you, whether that be leaving your current employment or staying there and finding other ways for you to grow and inspire those around you.
As we get towards the close, I know you've been killing it as a speaker, but I'm curious, as a speaker, where and when did you know that this was really resonating for you in a very rewarding speaking career?
Oh my gosh, the first time I was on stage. The first time I got on a stage and then got off a stage. And that's really where I've recognized my purpose. For so many years when I was leading organizations in R&D, leading innovation, meeting with different teams, traveling different countries all over the world, I could see that there was a vibrance that happened in people. When I was leading meetings, when I was a part of teams, I could feel that around me. And I heard that. People tell me that, Cassandra, you can light up a room, the way that you lead organizations, the way you can inspire people. I had heard that, but I hadn't really embraced it as a gift and a part of my purpose. But when I got off that stage for the first time, and I felt this same energy that I feel animating me, that I feel flowing through me, when I felt that same energy bounce out of somebody's face, through their eyes, through their smile, and it was like it was, coming outside of me, coming outside of them, and it was greeting itself. It was like this magical moment. And it's a moment that I get to enjoy, so many times a year in my speaking engagements and the more in-depth training work that I do. And it just assures me every time that, holy cow, I'm living on purpose. This is my purpose. I'm supposed to share this gift in this way.
Well, Cassandra, I ask this of all my guests, and there are sharks in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I've been to the Georgia Aquarium many times,
Yes.
but I have to ask, what is your favorite kind of shark and why?
Oh man, I don't have much shark knowledge. So
we'll go with the whale shark at Georgia Aquarium. I'll spot you that one.
So I know two types of sharks. I know the hammerhead, and I think that one just looks cool. And I always think about, how does that dude survive when he's got those eyes completely 180? Like, what's that all about? He's got all kinds of other senses that help him navigate. And then the other that I know is the bull shark, which I think is one of the most aggressive, and the one that you really have to be careful with, because I think it's one of the only ones that will actually try to take a bite at you. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and say the bull shark, because I want to make sure I don't get bit. So I need to learn about it. I need to respect it. I need to recognize when it might be around so that I'm not also in those waters.
It's very, very true. I have a tattoo of both of them. So,
really?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm all shark tatted up.
Oh, so. I love it. I love it.
Well, Cassandra, it's a special time in the show. Are you ready for the 5 most interesting and important questions that you're going to be asked today?
Talk to me.
All right. Number 1, friends are in town visiting Atlanta and you want to take them somewhere that is authentically Atlanta. You're taking them out to eat either at Chops in Buckhead for one of Atlanta's finest steaks or lobsters, or you're taking them to the iconic Varsity, home of slaw dogs and chili cheeseburgers, Atlanta's original American eatery, family owned and operated since 1928.
Can I take them to both? I would take them to Chops on Friday varsity on Saturday, and I take
Okay.
them to varsity midday so that we can go and walk and walk off all that chili, all that grease, because the varsity is known for that. But no, those are two just phenomenal.
I thought I was giving you a softball. I thought for certain you were going to choose chops and nobody would pick varsity. I actually kind of like varsity from spending way too much time downtown.
Varsity, it's about the experience. It's about the experience and supporting that incredible business. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Number 2. This is innovation as far as your time at P&G goes. Mm-hmm. Working with the innovation in batteries or the innovation in shampoo?
Oh, I'd have to say batteries. Because batteries, you get to not only work with complex fluids processing, which is exactly what shampoo is, and a lot of cool surfactant and polymer chemistry in shampoo, but you also get to do metal processing. You get to do component mechanical strain testing. There's a lot that goes into the manufacture and design of electrochemical cell. And I had no idea until I actually went to my first manufacturing facility, and I got to work with molten zinc and spinning it in this huge centrifugal reactor. It's the coolest stuff.
I'm surprised that there's actually any innovation in shampoo. Again, I thought I was giving you a softball. I thought they just like at most put avocados or something in it on the label, you know.
No, there's innovation. There's some things that happen. You be blown, but surfactant and polymer chemistry, you can do some weird stuff, man. Weird stuff happens.
All right, number 3, some change enthusiasm music, and I hope you know both of these. Sam Cooke and A Change Is Gonna Come, which is one of my favorites, or Jennifer Hudson and I'm Changing from Dreamgirls.
I have to say Sam Cooke because
thank you.
It was the first song that I actually sang on a stage in my adult life, and I sang it for my first TEDx.
Is there a video of that?
There is.
Okay.
It's my first TED Talk.
So you were born by the river in a little tent?
Yes. And so now during Q&A, I have audience who ask me to sing because they've heard that TED Talk. But I got to say, I love that song.
I love that song. I'm in blues country, so I hear that kind of music all the time.
I love it.
All right. Number 4, Dame Valerie Cassandra Adams, New Zealand's 4-time world champion and 2-time Olympic champion, or Natalia Venetic, I'm not even going to try it, Lisavskaya, a Russian turned French Olympic gold medalist and world record holder in shot put, your sport.
Listen, I cannot answer this question.
I thought you were going to know. Like, people always know other shot putters. I figured.
No.
Who's your favorite shot putter other than you at Georgia Tech?
This is a poor assumption. Listen, I'm going to tell you why. I did shot put in college at Georgia Tech. Then I quit doing shot put. And then I quit following shot put. So I don't know. I don't know any of the current throwers. So I'm going to say both of them.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
decorated doing a thing.
I'd never heard of either of them and didn't know either. So, All right. Number 5, it's a question we all know.
Yeah.
Number 5, and the most important question that you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
Oh my goodness. What am I eating it with?
You choose.
Gosh,
no extra setup.
It all depends. Breakfast is always.
It's your last meal on earth.
It's my last meal, dude?
Yeah. Well, that's the only way I can.
Wait.
Yeah, I know.
Cassandra, you are about to pass away. And you can either eat a biscuit or.
Well, you got to embrace change, you know.
You do. And that's a big change.
That's a big change.
That's the biggest transition you could ever dream of. I will go with cornbread because if I'm eating cornbread, it means that I'm eating something that's dinner. And I would prefer to be eating a dinner something for my last meal before I transition.
No problem.
And breakfast.
You got to embrace change when the end of the world is coming. So, and you'll get through that and cope with biscuits or cornbread. So,
Cassandra, speaking of change,
you
are about to die.
I went from softball to t-ball with a curveball. All right. So, Cassandra, where can people find out more about you, get a copy of this book, keep up with you, what you're doing on stage and off, and more?
Sure. Visit CassandraWorthy.com. That's where you'll get a lot of information, especially any booking inquiries. If you're interested in the book, go to ChangeEnthusiasmBook.com. You'll actually be able to download a free copy of the first chapter of the book and kind of have a read, see if it's something that you'd be interested in. There's also all the outlets of where you can buy it, and it's located at most bookstores, online, Amazon, all that kind of stuff. And then also I'm very active in social. Probably the best one is LinkedIn. So if you want to give me a follow, hopefully you'll enjoy the content. I share it daily.
Cassandra, thank you so much for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for allowing me to think about my transition. Thanks so much to your listeners. Appreciate it.
So there was my conversation with Cassandra Worthy, the founder and CEO of Change Enthusiasm, a former chemical engineer turned global keynote speaker, and the author of Change Enthusiasm, How to Harness the Power of Emotion for Leadership and Success. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from our conversation with her. First, we choose how we experience change, not this change itself, but how to deal with it. Welcome the emotions to help you power through it. If you'd spent any time with Cassandra, then you'll notice something about her that helps deal with change. That big positive attitude and a big smile. Positive attitudes can be contagious and can help you and others deal with change. I wish I had read this book when I was going through a lot of changes in the corporate world. Remember this, show more smiles. Second, for any manager who wants more from their people, their employees, don't just invest in perks like snacks and unlimited days off and nap pods and things like that. Those are great and keep them. But if you really want more from people, then invest in trust and show the people you lead that they can trust you. Long term, it will get you much more than sparkling water drinks and granola bars. Third, coping mechanisms can come in all shapes and flavors and sizes when dealing with change. Some people get angry, some people eat comfort food. Cassandra, for example, was very open about her issues with alcohol. I've had plenty of friends and family who've dealt with alcoholism as well, and I encourage every one of them to seek professional help. Nothing wrong with that. Whatever it is, please make sure that these negative emotions don't help you hurt yourself or others. But Cassandra brings up her 3 parts of change enthusiasm. Things you can look for to help improve your life. 1 is the signal. Recognizing the emotions through change, begin to trust those. 2, look at the options through this opportunity. And 3, make a choice that will lead to a better feeling. Not necessarily the best feeling, but that next best feeling through those little choices. Got a question? Send me an email to Kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you again for the privilege of your time, and I'm so thankful to everyone who listens. Please consider writing a review and letting me know your thoughts on the show. Listen, a change is going to come, and that means we'll soon change guests, but we'll always have another great show. I'm enthusiastic about that. Join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.